What is cropping up, stockers? Zach, the stock cropper, coming to you on Sunday, July 19th. Had an eventful week, a couple good stories to share, so let's get to it. So I came over to the pen yesterday morning to work on some things here at the farm, and Juice came out and greeted me and said, yeah, I had some fun last night. He's like, I came out to the pen about 10:30 after we finished watching a movie to make sure everything was okay, and there was a goat outside of a pen, and he looked out over at the chicken pen, and there was a screech owl sitting right on top of the the chicken tractors. So Juice was packing heat and shot off a shot to scare the owl away, and then he had to get the goat wrestled back in. But we had our lead gate on our on the sheep goat pen that was a little bit elevated, and we think that he escaped. But that is our first animal escape of the season. So it's not all roses and cherries. We gotta report the bad with the good. But that was a simple fix. Just needed to lower the turnbuckle down for that, and hopefully no more goats getting out. But yeah, the owl was a little bit interesting to see that sitting on there at 10:30 at night. But the chicken tractors are solid, and we shouldn't have any issues so far. But that's been our closest predator threat that we've had to date. So yeah. So this is all that remains of the first run of the barn. So we moved it here this morning, and all that we have left is the chickens and the chicken tractors. They've got one more move, and probably a couple more moves here. We ran the pigs out to about this point, and then we had to perform the turn this morning, and that was a little bit hairy because we had to do it on some uneven terrain, and the thing's not meant to turn on hills. Juice and I and our turnbuckle system were able to get her squared around and shooting back down the second run. We had talked about leaving it out here on this great forage that we've got left, but when we saw what it was taking to turn it, and we didn't want to put any more undue stress on the structure than was necessary this first year. So the good news is that our Sudan grass and the cowpeas that we seeded here last I don't know what it was, a week, 10 days ago, something like that, that stuff is already up, and it's looking really good. And we were lucky this week. I was asking for rain. We did catch a rain the next morning, and that allowed for the Sudan and the cowpeas to get started, and so we've got nice rows of them coming. And we don't have a ton for, at least right now, because of just how things worked for the sheep to graze on. What we're probably going to do is just get a little bit of hay to supplement, so that their bellies are happy here until the pasture can catch back up. But yeah, we're learning. Like I said, we've got a lot of ideas with how this scales up and how we manage the timing and different species, and possibly like relay cropping. These pasture runs where we maybe do some multiple seedings, so that we could possibly say harvest oats off the first two runs that we don't graze the first month, and then have another mix that's seeded underneath, that's ready to come up underneath. That's the problem we ran into here, is that the oats were just so dominant in this mix, and we had the other species that were seeded in, but the Sudan grass that was seeded just didn't come with an early seeding date. So I think we're gonna have maybe a week or two here of not much to graze, but I think with how fast this stuff's popping up and the heat, and we do have some more rain forecast this week, we should be back in business on this second strip. And the third grazing strip that we'll finish on for the season, that thing should be looking glorious by the time we get there. So yeah. Oh, the other story from this week too. So after we got that rain on whatever day it was, the pigs came out and were doing some pretty good rooting, and we done really well to this point, avoiding the need probably to having to ring them. But we decided to go ahead last week and do that, and I've got some video that I might punch in here that Juice shot while we were doing it. But we got this handy dandy old hog catcher chute, or whatever you call it, but stuck their head through there and just lightly clamped them down. That made it really easy to work with, and had some ringing pliers and plugged their ears for a little bit. And I'd never done it before, so I didn't know what to expect, but the pigs, they yell for about 5 seconds, and then they relax and they go back at it. So they can still rut a little bit, but they're just not, they're not going to dig the aggressive wallows that they were before. So some people may not like that, but that's part of our system. You know, we're not having this system to be permanent hog pasture. We're doing this so that we can come back and utilize the glory of their manure next season, and plant corn or soybeans or whatever else in, and we've got to have it so that's semi-smooth. So that's one of the compromises that we're probably going to have to make in this system, but the pigs seem to be happy, and they're still digging a little bit and getting mud and the goodness of the soil biology in their gut as well. So, but these pigs look absolutely fantastic. The Stevemer background genetics just well, they speak for themselves. These are just great looking pigs, and they're doing really well. And our new cup watering system was working much better. We did catch some more rains this week. I think we had 2 rains now where we filled the tanks this week. So things are looking good. Things are greening back up again. We're definitely not out of the woods on the dryness, but you know, we're going to need an inch a week here to finish stuff out. But the corn is pollinating here. The 825 in the middle is probably pretty close to being done already, and the 1185 on the outside is just coming out and shedding pollen this morning. So it'll be interesting to see what type of kernel sets, but we're looking for a pretty cool week this week. So hopefully, especially this outside stuff, will have some non-stressful conditions to get pollinated in, and we'll be off to the race for hopefully some 400 bushel corn on these outside rows. So yeah. So last weekend I took a little bit of a sabbatical and went for basically a weekend kind of business retreat, just to focus mainly on the stock cropper and do a bunch of stuff that I've been meaning to get caught up on, but just hadn't had the time. And it worked out really, really well. I came up with the field schematics that I think, if this thing is to scale up to a bigger field basis, of what that looks like, and did a bunch of economic analysis that I kind of alluded to in last week's video. And so when I got back, I had that finished work, and I passed that on to, like I talked about, Megan Filbert with Practical Farmers of Iowa, and I sent that off to her for her to take a look at and see what she thought. And Megan's going to help us do kind of some independent validation of the math and our assumptions on this system to make sure that they're realistic. But you know, we haven't really talked a lot about the direction of where we're hoping to go this thing, and I wanted just to hit on that. You know, because things are becoming a little bit more apparent that we're seeing that the system's working, and so we're starting to move on to those next steps of trying to get an idea like this off of the ground. So we are, you know, a couple things that we do have coming up that we're going to be working on is we are going to be attempting in the next probably 6 weeks to try to adapt the barn so that we're able to advance it autonomously. with a solar powered battery pack and electric motor drive system on our drive wheels. So that is, from a barn standpoint, the next hill to overcome, because we can't, it's going to be very difficult to scale this up if you have to hook it to a winch and do that. We need to, decrease the time it takes to move it, and that cog is going to be the thing we have to overcome, and I think that is achievable. We got some good starts on that as well. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was, the whole key to this system is the selling and marketing of the meat from the animals that we're producing out of here. And so one of the things I've been working on in the evenings this week is trying to come up with a strategy for this first set of animals. And I've got a couple different ideas, but we are going to be turning to you, the people that have been watching and consuming this channel, to have an opportunity to purchase or participate potentially even in the slaughter of these animals, to give you that full experience. So more details on that to come, but if you've been watching wondering what we're going to do with these things, yes, they will be for sale, and yes, we will be looking to market them to people that are interested in this project right now. So that will be coming too. The other piece, that I wanted to mention is, part of getting the system, like I said, autonomous, hopefully with electric drive motors and solar power, is that's the last cog we feel if we're actually going to, because we've had quite a bit or a fair amount of interest, I should say. People are curious, and we do have some people, I think, that would actually maybe purchase a mobile barn if they were available for next year. So we're starting to investigate the manufacturing capacity, what that's going to look like. So those are the things that we've got on the burner. I haven't talked a lot about that stuff to this point, but wanted to give everybody an update as where we're kind of heading from a path standpoint, and what we're going to have to offer people out of this system here, kind of where we're heading. So yeah, so if you've got any questions or comments, hit me up on my the Gmail account, thestockcropper.com, or you can comment on the YouTube page or the Facebooks or the Twitters or whatever, what have you. The other thing from this week that I did was I did my first podcast talking about the system. I did the Working Cows podcast, and I think that's going to be coming out here in the next 2 weeks. I did that with a gentleman out in South Dakota, and I think we recorded that on Wednesday or something like that too. So we had about an hour-long conversation talking about the who, what, why of this system, so stay tuned for that as well. So I think that's it for this week. That's what's cropping up, stockers. We'll see you next weekend.